Welcome to Stick to Rugby, brought to you by Defender, and it's all changed in the hot seat. Our two deserters, Shanks and SQ, have gone to Australia to follow the Lions tour. Welcome back, Katy.
I'm back.
Sarah Hunter is on the bench.
Yeah, she's out.
She's out. And we have two very special guests, London Irish leading point scorer and appearance maker, Topsy and Lewis Moody, who played for Leicester Tigers for most of his career and then saw sense and moved down to Bath.
Still there, mate, still there, so beautiful.
And of course played and captained England and the British Lions. So welcome to you both. We've got two serious professionals in the back of the car. I'm feeling all giddy because I've been given the responsibility of driving for some reason.
The rest of us feel nervous, but it's all right.
Anyone up to anything at the weekend? It's been a bit of a sporting extravaganza. We obviously got the Lions, which we'll talk about later. I went to the boxing, which I've got to say was a first for me, a heavyweight fight at Wembley.
It was a great fight, wasn't it? I watched it. I love my boxing. It was a great fight. I love Usyk. He's just got that sort of... He's got a bit of a demon in him, hasn't he? You know, those eyes when he comes out of the tunnel. I love his story as well, with everything that's going on in the game, in the world at the minute. You know, his story.
He's just a class above, isn't he?
Yeah,
Really?
something else, isn't he? Like, I like him as well. I think he's a brilliant boxer, but I'm slightly annoyed by him now that he's just cleaning up all of Britain's best heavyweights. He's like, who's next? He's done AJ twice, Fury, Dubois, I don't know who's next, Chisora, like all of them have tried and have failed. I mean, he'll go down as one of the greats. Twice undisputed at heavyweight, you know, he's in a class above.
I always thought I'd be a pretty decent boxer, and when I retired, I was training in a gym, and one of the guys that owned it said, do you want to do a bit of sparring? And I was like sort of thrown back to the stuff I'd done in the training ground, thinking, how hard can it be? Get in the gym, get in the ring, and he puts this helmet on, it's got a metal bar around it. I was like, this seems slightly extreme. Like normally you have like the sort of amateur boxing, he's got a metal bar. And he didn't put anything on. And he didn't even put a gum shield in. I was like, do you not think, you see the size that he was about 5'8". I'm 6'4". He must have been 50. I probably would have been 35. And I should have probably realised at that point that
that was a sign.
It was not going to go bad. I spent the first 30 seconds literally trying to throw a punch. Every time I thought about throwing it, he hit me.
And Lewis, if you box like you play rugby, you just come straight out the blocks on round one and you go charging into your opponent straight away.
Well, it's like skiing, isn't it? You know, if you haven't skied before, there's only so many times you can laugh at yourself until you start getting annoyed. Every time we got hit, I'd laugh a little bit, and then about the fifth or sixth time I was like, right, fuck it, he's having it, and I went after him. One shot in the sternum and I was down. That was it. Down out. I was like, get me off.
Anyone watch the golf? It's a bit predictable, wasn't it, really? Scotty Scheffler.
He won comfortably in the end.
Yeah, he did.
What do you guys think about his comments before?
I know, he just said, I don't know why I bother playing, I'm the world number one, I play for a 10-second feeling of winning, and then I hate my life, basically, type thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must be tough in an individual sport like that, isn't it? You're travelling the world, and I imagine, you know, we've all experienced the sort of the highs, those moments when you put in years of training for that sort of 1 30-second bit of elation when you lift the trophy. But isn't that, you know, that feeling that he's describing? Maybe it's just, I don't know whether he hasn't spoken to many other sports people, but take the World Cup for instance, or any of the you know, the titles that you win. Even in a World Cup, I remember sitting in the changing room afterwards, the moments of elation. Then you sit in the changing room, you're like, what now? What happens now?
What happens?
And it's like, you sat there, I was expecting to feel like absolute ecstasy for days. Months,
Unfortunately.
Did that not come later though?
That adrenaline.
Well, good question. I don't think the ecstasy ever did. Like you were then thrown into a load of stuff.
Not when you're playing Rotherham away the following week.
You guys had to play the week after, didn't you? Which is brutal.
Did you know? Sorry, Topsy.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, you've achieved the goal, the ultimate goal, and because you've put so much into it physically, mentally, actually, you're just knackered at the end, aren't you? So actually, maybe you're not in a space to enjoy it. That's why I thought maybe later, as much as you had to go play Rotherham away, did you get a chance to actually be like, I did that?
We'll put that to our special guest this week, because on the show today is England, Leicester Tigers and British and Irish Lions legend, the former World Cup winner and teammate of certainly Lewis and mine, Neil Back. Now, Neil was played a lot of games for England, but he was also part of the back row with myself and Richard Hill, known as the Holy Trinity.
Did you name yourself?
No.
Yes, of course he did.
Self-proclaimed. Self-proclaimed.
100%.
Of course I did, yes. I mean,
I got rid of the 3 legends.
I am quite religious. But the question I have is, if you could pick 1 or 2 players that you really wanted to play with in your team, or doesn't have to be from your team, who would they be?
Yeah, there's probably two Kiwis, because it was like in my era, they were probably definitely the most dominant team. So
that means it's someone who could pass the ball properly, is that what?
Well, no, to be fair, we were fortunate with some 9s, but Kendra Coxage, New Zealand scrum half, and Kelly Brazier, the 12, probably like 2 of your nemesis that you play against. But imagine being able to play on the same team with them at that point. Yeah. It would one of them moments where you're like, how special it would have been.
Yeah. That's a pretty good answer. Lewis, do anyone spring to mind? I mean, you play with some awesome players anyway, regardless. But
mate, do you know what? Yeah, I feel really lucky to have played with so many phenomenal players, even like Dino and Rory, and so I got to play with a lot of my schoolboy heroes. So I look at the game now and I think, who would I like to play with in the current game? And like people that I buy into are individuals that are passionate. You know, that sort of reflective energy. You know, someone that you play with that looks like they're going to go anywhere and do anything. So probably Ellis Genge and Owen Farrell. Yeah. Faz has got a bit of that sort of angry,
we found an Owen Farrell fan. We like it.
I love Owen Farrell. The way he plays.
I love him as well.
As a 10, the hits, the way that he just, the tenacity with which he approached the game, I just love it. And Ellis is a little bit similar, but a bit more mental, which also appeals to me.
To your character.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Tops, give us a bit of class from your era.
A bit of class. You put the pressure on me. Can I cheat and have 3?
Yeah, you can have 3.
Can I have 3? Okay. One, I've got a Kiwi theme as well. I watched a lot of him growing up. Carlos Spencer.
Good one.
Yeah, I would love to have played alongside him as well.
You might get a little bit more ball, actually.
Would have been electric. Sonny Bill Williams. Right. Is the other one. Nice. I think he just came in and could just do a lot of different things. And then the third one, a hero of mine growing up, a teammate of yours, Jason Robinson.
Nice.
Electric. I mean, again, used to love watching him play. Like, just give him the ball and let him work his magic. So I think if I was in a back 3 with him, right, you do the work. I'll be on your shoulder.
Pick it up.
I tell you,
he scored twice as many tries. But I mean, he was class. Like, I love him.
Wonderful.
Lol, I don't know whether you felt this, but when you're on the pitch with Jace, when the ball got kicked and there was almost you could feel like the sense of anticipation from the crowd. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean it is. He's an X factor, but he really did have it, and you wouldn't have to run back too far because he'd get in front of you pretty quickly. He could run quicker sideways than I think most of us could forwards. Really, to be honest with you, he was unbelievably good.
Wasn't there a good story about when he started coaching at Sale? Yeah, and he wanted to teach like the lads how to sidestep. And he was getting a little bit frustrated with the fact that they weren't doing it quite to the level. It was like, Jace, you can run flat out and sidestep like 20 metres in the opposite direction. That is not something you can coach. That is God-given ability. Lads, just do it like this. Just do it like this. He was phenomenal.
And that was the end of his coaching career.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
You're sitting down and you're looking round into everyone's eyes, and you know you're ready. Dino would smile, take his teeth out and join in the session.
Oh, hang on. All right, now I'm ready.
They had a good 10 or a 15 that would kick goals. So I did it one day just to prove it's not that difficult.
Very kind of you. What a team player you are.
Whitey literally got him by the back of the head. Boom, back he comes out. He was like, "What are you doing that? I was going to finish him off." It was an absolute goal. It was a bleeding.
You do what you have to do to win the game.
The very dark arts went to play.
Expectations were high. Yeah. Every training session was literally a battle to prove whether you're worthy to stay in for the next training session.
To play a tour in France, that would be
brilliant.
One for the ages.
When blood started dripping down my head, I used to like it. And I used to taste it.
He said, "Lawrence, hold my pint." I held his pint, he turned around and he knocked this bloke's spark out. Do you remember that?
Don't know what you're on about.
Right, well, welcome to Stick to Rugby. Before we get into it, Neil Back, our special guest, Leicester, England and British Lions legend. We always start on Stick to Rugby, don't we, with a local delicacy. This has been made by Hannah in the production team, and it is obviously a rocky road. So, Becky,
you don't get a body like that by eating rocky
I know.
road.
Well,
They do look good,
I'm
though.
going to get stuck in, so I will have one. Maybe not straight away, but
Yeah, I'll have
feel
one.
free.
I'll have one. When in Rome. No.
Nervous.
Becky.
Thank you. Is it Hannah, is it?
Hannah, Hannah in the team next door.
Fantastic.
We usually start with a quiz. This is like my main role in the show.
Okay.
And this one's a back in the day quick fire.
Oh, get what you do
So, literally, there's about 10 questions. Are you ready? Who was your sporting hero growing up?
I think it was Jean-Pierre Rive, the French number 7, only because he had blonde hair, he often bled, and he looked like a warrior.
Nice. Did you have a pre-match superstition?
Yes, I made tie-ups out of tape for my socks, and this goes back to being a Cub Scout and in the Scouts when they had little tie-ups for your socks with a little V on the bottom. So I used to cut the little V on, and this just took me away from the pressure and what was about to do, put me into a good place. But I routinely had those, and I saw Moodos nodding his head. I made them for every game. So the amount of tape I wasted
I was nodding my head thinking,
tie-ups.
that dude is insane. My socks, they never stayed up. They were like round my ankles, like 14
Well, I mean,
inches.
there was a method to his madness, because not only did they stay up, but when his boot was in the wrong side of the ruck, they couldn't identify him either, really.
They were literally immaculate as well. I remember, so I'd been like 18 or 19 at the time. Becky's doing this, and we're probably slightly very different characters off the field, but as someone that was slightly more chaotic, sharing a room with Neil, and you come in and his clothes are beautifully
Oh, no, I know.
like, meticulously.
OCD. It's called OCD, Lewis.
My cupboard was like a clothes.
Oh, you could have some fun with that, couldn't you?
Well, OCD. I used to deliberately make the room a bomb site.
Yeah, I'm just going to move that very slightly. Just
Well, if Moodos's room, if you'd have chucked a grenade in it, it would have landed neater.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Best Lions roommate?
Keith Wood,
Oh, good one.
he was good and bad, really. He was good because a legend player, but really bad because he was the worst snorer, and we'll all know that lack of sleep is detrimental to performance. So, yeah.
Didn't he have a weird pillow arrangement system?
Yeah,
going on?
because he'd broken both his shoulders, or he had, so
He's AC
he used
both
to sleep
sides.
like this with both pillows. I actually I roomed with him on the first week of the tour, and I moved his bed out of the room. I couldn't do the snoring.
Toughest opponent you ever faced?
There's not one single person. I think in terms of physicality, and it's same in today's game, South Africa. But, pre-World Cup, last game of our autumn series, we played South Africa. They'd had a good tour. We'd won 3 out of 3, and they'd won 3 out of 3. It was the last game. It was a year out from the World Cup. And they picked the biggest and ugliest team they could. It's quite clear what their intent was to physically dominate us, and if that didn't work, they'd try harder. But we beat them that day, 53 points to 6. They scored 2 penalties. They lost a player back end of the first half, so they went down to 14. Wilker got taken out. Hilly got injured. He had 3 butterflies under his eye. Corner Krieger, their number 6 and captain that day, elbowed me straight in the face, 35 above that eye. Got him stitched, 12 internal. And I was a bit weird back then because when blood started dripping down my head, I used to like it. And I used to taste it.
Was that not normal?
Yeah,
Because he got used to it, didn't he?
no, so
Oh, papier-mâché face over there.
anyway, I got him stitched up, and like I say, Hilly come in a few minutes later. He wanted juice. I said, just get the stitches in. I want to get back out there. And I went back out there, and I could see the players' faces. Wilco in particular looking at me thinking, what are you doing? But I think that sort of it said to him how much it meant to me. Anyway, we went out over 50 points with about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and Jono said to Paddy O'Keefe, the ref that day, Paddy O'Brien, sorry, how long's left? And he said, well, 4 minutes. And Jono said, if I were you, I'd blow the whistle now, because nothing good's going to happen in the next 4 minutes. And he did. And as we were walking off the pitch, Corner Krieger said to me, I'll see you in Perth. And I was thinking, what's he on about? And Jono overheard this and he said, oh, that's where we play him in round 2 of the World Cup next year. So they were there to try and physically dominate us ahead of that, but it drastically backfired. And then their mindset was on the World Cup. That shed a lot.
Wasn't there something like 50 sightings after that game?
There was a lot, yeah. There was a lot. I mean, they kept saying, even in the post-match press conference, upstairs in the Spirit Rugby, when the captain made his speech, he said, well, we'll see you in Perth. And I thought, yeah, we'll see you in Perth.
Yeah, we did. And beat them again.
One match you wish you could play again?
Pilkington Cup Final. We'll get onto that later.
Oh, there it is.
We'll get onto that later.
No, well, that game, if we're going to talk about it later, it is a game I would like to do, because at the back end of that game, it was Pilkington Cup Final, it was against Bath at Twickenham, as it was back then at Allianz Stadium now. And the referee gave a dubious decision at the end of the game, which meant Bath won. And as we were walking off the pitch, I accidentally bumped into him and he fell over.
Right, that's statement number 1 on this issue. Let's revisit that later. Let's revisit that later, Becky, because we are going to talk about that.
Would that be your game?
Okay. What happened, sort of, like, give me massive jump into the pro era, having an amount of time off. So 6
months, the longest ever given. Yeah,
was it?
The game, obviously, there's nothing we can do, but it would have been better to win it, and we should have won it. But what happened, I wouldn't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
But because it happened, it made me the player I was.
Nice. Best piece of advice you ever received?
Whatever you do in life, don't fail through lack of effort. So if you don't make it, it's because you're not good enough, not you didn't try hard enough.
Hardest hitter in training?
Julian White.
was that with his
shoulder
fists
off?
Or with
Yeah. At Leicester, we always used to have a hard contact day, and it often ended with a near fight, and then it would be quelled, and then we'd walk off the pitch, and that'd be it. And I got into a little fracas with Whitey, and he went boom, bang, and I sort of shuddered a bit.
It was a short fight. It was a short fight, was it?
It was one punch. That was it. But he didn't go off the pitch. But he told me that day not to mess around with him at the back.
I love the fact, right? So this is Backy though. So that's
his version, right? So what's the real version?
We're playing touch, and it's all escalating.
Gosh, always starts with touch, doesn't it?
It's always the most fights. Absolutely, it's escalating. And I think Backy might have touched Whitey, and he'd gone one step too far, and then Backy did it. And anyway, so they're in this scuffle. Whitey literally got him by the back of the head. Boom, boom. He's opened up, I think probably across both cheeks, and Backy's bleeding. And I can't remember if it was John Wells or someone comes in and separates them. And Backy comes out, the competitor that he was like, what are you doing that? What are you doing? I just about had him. I was going to finish him off. It was an absolute goal. It was bleeding from every
slightly different version.
Yeah. Same story, two
versions. That's complete horseshit. Right.
Was that absolute? You don't have to whisper, Backy.
There was one punch, and then it all went in. But Wellesley sent me off the field. When the session was continuing, I did intervals in the 22 because I didn't want to miss out on the training. Yeah. Serious.
And the final one, playing under Clive Woodward in one word.
That's not the word. He set out for the experience of playing rugby in his tenure as being fun and enjoyable, and it was.
What would you two say, out of interest, very quickly?
I don't know, it was awesome, really. I mean, we got there in the end, didn't we? It's awesome.
In terms of a word, you guys were sort of further into that. You've been there a bit longer. I'd come in a little bit younger, so what was I, 23, 24 under Clive. pressurised. Probably. It's probably
high
it's probably
performance,
what I
yeah.
felt.
So
High
it's
performance.
Proper high performance in rugby before anyone had it, really.
Expectations were high,
Yeah.
like really high. You know, you come in and you got these guys like Backie's obviously the ultimate competitor, work ethic. You got Lawrence who'd been there, Hilly, for me, sort of guys that I'd grown up watching. To come into that environment where every training session was literally a battle to prove whether you were worthy to stay in for the next training session.
Stick to Rugby, brought to you by Defender.
I'm going to take you right back to the beginning, because in rugby parlance, you're a Cov skin. You're born in Coventry. Were you quite sporty as a kid, or was it always rugby?
No, it's easy to tell with the sports I didn't play. Played absolutely everything. I went to state, junior and senior schools. My aspirations in life were accidentally set when I was 11, my last year of that primary school, when Mr. Frankish, my school teacher, wrote on the blackboard, aspirations, what do you want to achieve when you're older? And I was sitting at the front and he picked me and I stood up and I thought, oh my God, 11 years of age, what's your aspirations, what do you want to achieve? And I sort of blurted out, I want to play rugby for England and drive a Porsche. When I said this, all my classmates laughed. So I sat down, went bright red, sort of burnt up, and as they talked about their aspirations, I thought, I'll show you.
Yeah.
6-7 years later, I made my first schoolboys cap at Twickenham against Australia, and then 18 years later, I made my final
That's really
in the
interesting.
World Cup final.
So at the age of 11, it was you already knew it was rugby. So had you already fallen in love with rugby at that point?
Well, I started playing. I'm a middle son of 3 brothers. My elder brother was 18 months older than me. He started playing when he joined primary school. He joined a local club. He was 6 and I was 4. And I went along with him and played in the under-6s. Right. So I was one of the smallest in the squad then, and that didn't change through my whole playing career, to be honest with you. Yeah. So I started playing rugby from the age of 4, but like I said, at primary school, and particularly at senior school, when I went to senior school, they had a rugby team. So I played rugby on a Saturday, I played football on a Sunday. What
was it like being the middle child boy of 3? Did you get to keep your pocket money, or did you lose it every now and again?
Well, I used to beat my older brother off. No, I didn't. I never threw a punch. No. You know, my younger brother was 4 years younger than me. It was him that really, when we were out playing, when we got a bit older and he was a bit younger, we used to sort of say we were playing out on our bikes. We'd say, oh, Mum and Dad want you. And he'd send him back and then we'd ride off.
I can see now that you're used to working in a 3 now. That's why it makes sense.
Yeah.
Were you, I'm going to ask you, but you're out of striking distance. Were you the tallest in the family? Of your brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that a part of the driving force for you though? You know, not the height thing, but always having to prove yourself. When you got brothers, you got siblings around you, you've got.
No, I just think, like I said, I enjoyed playing sport. Through the summer, it was athletics. So I was a javelin thrower, I was an 800 metre runner, I was 1500 metre runner.
He was that annoying that person at sports day that used to win everything, wasn't he, really?
Always, takes no prisoners.
I went to swimming club, I swam, and then I thought, I don't want to swim. And at Coventry back then, they had Olympic diving boards. Wow. 5...
they were great fun, I remember going on that.
A 10 metre, 5 metre, and a 1.5 metre board. So I thought, I'll join the diving club, and I actually dived for the city.
Did you really?
So, yeah, I love going off the 10 metre board. So, all sports, there's loads of transferable skills. So I played as many sports as I could, and they've all contributed.
Well, they certainly did. And listen, I think it's fair to say that you kind of broke the mould, really, for back row forwards when you came into the team. You scored, I was looking at the stats the other day, 125 tries for Leicester. I think you scored 16 for England. Now, the modern day players maybe in the forwards get an opportunity to score a lot more, but that at that time was quite record-breaking, really. Were you just a greedy bastard, or were you just didn't want to pass the ball to anyone?
Well,
I mean, I remember the driving Mould tries. We used to watch Leicester play, and I'd be thinking, if I could have a bet, I'd stick it on Neil Back to score the try.
There was a was it Ladbrokes that come to Leicester that opened a book over who was going to score the first try, and people laid loads of money on me. I didn't lay a penny on me, and by Christmas they'd packed up and gone away. But those 125 tries were not all push-over tries, to be honest with you. As a back row forward, you know, you were always like, if someone took a picture, you'd be in the picture as a support runner, either when they were taken into contact or covering them for missing tackles. So I think what you've neglected to also mention is I'm the only person to drop a goal
it was in the notes, but I was about to come on to that, Becky, but I can't quite. But I was just making sure it wasn't a misprint because I can't quite believe it. What happened?
Well, for every team I played for until I was 18, I kicked goals.
Yeah.
So,
Did you really?
Yeah. So, and I played 9, I played 12, and I played back and back row. You know what I mean? So I always kicked goals. But when I joined a senior club, and my first club was Nottingham. They had a good 10 or a 15 or a winger that would kick goals. So I did it one day just to prove it's not that difficult. No, seriously.
That's very kind of you. What a team player you are.
Kicking, easy.
You said I kicked through every level I ever played, but when I got to Leicester, they decided to take the kicking away from me.
Well, it was Nottingham, my first club, for 2 years whilst I was played England 21s, but literally. But like, they were getting... And it was also coincided with a time where, under Clive, we were talking about, because of certain games, and I won't mention the games, but we're ahead 6 points, we had opportunity to kick 3 more, 3-6-9, the opposition has to score twice. So in this game, we were 6 points ahead.
Was it in front, straight in front?
Yeah, virtually.
Like 5-6 metres away?
Well, Google it. Google it. No, Google it, have a look. But... literally, the reason I did it is because when the goal kickers practice, like Wilco and Paul Grayson back in the day, would practice their goal kicking, I'd be doing work-ons in the 22 and they'd kick the ball over and I'd like kick it back, often drop kick it back to them or like grubber kick it through to them. And so this game was 6 points up, there was nothing on it. When you look at it, I stack up to the right, I look to the left at options. No, there was nothing on, so it was the only thing to do, and it was the perfect moment. And when it went over, I didn't like go look at me. I just jogged back to the halfway line and hoped the game would start as quickly as possible. And afterwards, the Italian president, who had to have his speech like translated, like had a go at me for doing that against Italy because he thought it was like taking the piss basically, but it wasn't for that reason. It was a team thing, and that sort of grounded a few of our players, I think.
There we go, kicking, easy. Yeah. You've mentioned Nottingham, your first club. What do you remember about your debut?
Nothing. I went there because I grew up in Coventry, and everyone thought, you know, you might play for Coventry in the future. And when that opportunity arose after schools, England schools and Colts, the Coventry head coach, a guy called Jim Robinson, left to join the outgoing Welsh coach, Alan Davis, at Nottingham, and he recruited me there, Jim Robinson. So he spotted me when I was 11, I found out later, and it sort of tracked my career. And at that age, he took me along. And it was great because I went there. Gary Rees, who was in England number 7 at the time, and British and Irish line number 7, was there, and a number of other international. Brian Moore was there, Chris Oatey was there, Simon Hodgkinson, the goal kicker. It was about playing with fellow internationals, and I went there to learn off Gary Rees. I was there for 2 years. I played England 21 for 2 years, and then our under-21s coach, England 21s coach, Tony Ruth, joined Leicester as a head coach. And he recruited me there, and it was a dream opportunity. I was invited to Welford Road. I sat in the Crumbie stand. I looked over the stadium, looked at the stadium back then, the amount of supporters they had. It was a no-brainer because Dean Richards was a current number 8 at the time, and to play alongside him, I thought that would help me project into the international team.
As a young back rower coming through when you were at Leicester, and you just touched on the England under-21s, there was a myth, I don't know whether it was a myth, but this is why I'm asking you the question, that after international you did a bleep test and completed it. Was there any truth to that?
The truth to it was, after a 21s game, as a test of mentality, player mentality, they set up to do a bleep test after the game. I didn't get to the end of the bleep test, but I got to like ridiculously high level, because that was my thing. Because if you remember back, I was an 800, 1500 metre runner. So I wasn't the fastest, but I had endurance.
Impressive either way.
Yeah.
Impressive either way, yeah.
Was that
But that's
kind
a
of
mental test.
So was that the environment that you were walking into then? Or what did you expect, and what did you find when you first got into the changing rooms at Leicester?
Well, Ian Dosser-Smith had just retired as the flanker there, and he became first team coach. And he was a great coach, great player of his day. Never played internationally. John Wells was a great club player for Leicester, and he never got capped. I think he played in an uncapped 15, but he never got a full cap.
Bear in mind there was only 4 caps internationals a year, which was effectively the Five Nations. So
you forget that,
you know,
don't you,
I mean,
as well?
when people aren't capped, it's not like 10 or 12 a year like there are now. It was 4, and no substitutions. So to get capped was really special and really difficult.
And just as there is now, if you look at the back row, the options England have got, they've got
huge.
Conceivably 9 or 10 that they've got to pay 3 plus a bench from. So it's incredible competitive. It was back then. You know, I can name the names, but it was super competitive. And obviously when you and Hilly come in, it was super competitive. I mean, you know, you think of the World Cup, what we had, then coming through, there's Moodos, there's Corrie, the Joe Worsley, you know what I mean, that, you know, could have played that day and would have probably won as well, so.
You had an amazing career at Leicester, and it might be tough to pick out a moment that stands out. 5 league titles, a couple of Heineken Cups, and a Pilkington Cup as well to throw into the mix. But any moments that stand out for you as career highlights from your time at Leicester?
I think the 2001 final against Stade Francais out there was a great moment. And the reason I love that game is because we're in their own backyard, basically. They were a great team, and it kicked off in the tunnel as we went out, between the 2 front rows, Darren Garforth and co, getting tasty. And on the day, I scored an unforgotten try. Leon Loy scored a pair that everyone remembers.
Back of the Mould?
You scored in that European final?
Yeah.
Did you?
It's forgotten.
Yeah, I can't remember that. Just reinforce that.
Did you score? I thought it was me.
125 tries he scored for Leicester. But you could at least pick that one out.
The reason I want to mention this game is because it was not just winning a European Cup. It was Jono was captain that day, and he sort of let a couple of players lift the trophy.
Yeah.
And then the trophy afterwards, we took it out the stadium, across the road into the local bar, and shared it with the fans. That would never, I don't like to say never, because it's not a word I like, but I don't think it would happen
I think we had the similar experience when in 2004, where we just go into the car park afterwards and you're there with the fans, and it's like
There was something special about that time as well, because I was on the bench and didn't get on the pitch, but the euphoria that a club had been building like Leicester. No, yeah, sorry, sure. Are you talking about me or are you talking about back? I can't remember.
Equally important to our success, as I always say, the people now that talk about the time 15, it's time, like in a programme, 1 to 23 are in the same font and the same size, because they're all equally important. And even the guys off the bench in the training week are equally important. Without everyone contributing, you don't win.
And in that Leicester side, in that wider team that you're talking about, the kit man, Cliff Shepherd, he'd played 200 games. John Duggan, the S&C, had played 300 games. It felt like a perfect moment. I can't remember. I can't believe you scored in that. I didn't realise. Apologies.
Well, we only remember the 2 Leon Lloyd tries.
Well, you're only lost in man of the match. You didn't even really do anything.
Well, at Leicester, that's
quite
all you're
understand how he
allowed
managed
to
to blag
remember,
that one.
aren't you?
But your first European Cup against a very worthy opponent, because they had a star-studded team in those days.
Dominguez at Fly.
They were serious players, and I think to have beaten them away from
in their
home,
own backyard,
in their own backyard,
away.
having lost to Brive in that, you weren't the same team again, were you?
But we learnt that lesson.
That's what I mean. So, and the first time you win that trophy is always pretty special.
And then we obviously went back to back the following year.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You're not known for, but you were so professional that you rarely had a drink. Did you have a drink that night? Did you celebrate your success?
I did, yeah. I wasn't teetotal. I understand that having a drink and a few beers with your teammate is really important to team building. So I'd often sort of have a pint all night, basically. But I'd drink 2 or 3 pints. There's occasionally, I know, the back end of an autumn series, it was South Africa again with the opposition, and we beat them that day, and literally I got absolutely trolleyed, because that's the time
we made the mistake of giving your front row a bottle of champagne to share between the two of them, Garforth and Cockerell.
Bubbles never
and
ends well.
They were swinging from the chandeliers by the end. I don't think they'd ever drunk anything like that, had they?
That night, I was literally come back to the hotel room, and literally I was... I don't know how I found myself naked in the bathroom, and Ali come back with all the other girls' wives and girlfriends, literally, and about half the teens' wives and girlfriends saw me naked puking in the toilet. So it didn't go well down with me drinking, but no. As you know, Lawrence, drinking is detrimental to performance. So I couldn't do it. I didn't feel I could do it, because I thought...
Out of interest, how did that reflect? Because the Lions, which I totally hear your point on drinking and performance, but the Lions is about bringing people together as quickly as possible. So when you're on those Lions tours, how did you fit into that?
On my first Lions tour, 97, that was the first one in the pro era. It was still very amateur. That tour, obviously, we won the first and second test, and it was 2-0. And because that was the first tour in the pro era, but still very amateur, like I said, and I think we were accelerated a bit by the professional rugby league lads that had come into that squad, but they enjoyed a drink too. But after the second test, and it was 2-0, right, the third test, we proved without doubt that lack of sleep alcohol was detrimental to performance, because we got battered, didn't we?
Domestically, though, just to touch on, you two actually had quite a big rivalry, Leicester and Wasps. Do you remember?
But you met them two personally?
Personally, maybe. Personally, professionally. What do you remember about that rivalry? Any moments, actually, when you guys were against each other on the field that kind of jumped back?
Yeah, many. I think...
Ones that you can share, though?
Yeah. I think there was a mutual respect, because, I would rather play against a great team full of great players than a walkover game. So, back in the day, in the early 90s, it was Bath and sort of Leicester, but then Wasps come into the arena, and then they sort of took the lead for a while, and then it was hugely competitive, and Low was a big part of that. So, getting a victory over Wasps back then was a big thing, and vice versa. So I'd always rather play in front of those, and playing against Low, I sort of understood what he could bring to the table, and he is a quality player, and we sort of went toe to toe, and then we walked off the pitch and shook each other's hands, and been friends for a long time.
It's been very difficult. Absolutely no doubt that I was singled out for rather special attention in those days, because that was the mentality of any team. If you've got a player that is the kind of player that lights that team's energy, you put him out, you put the team out, don't you, really? But back in, I didn't get on very well initially, because I got picked somehow for England at number 7 for my first 12 caps, and I never really understood it myself. Jack Ralph phoned me up, he said, "Would you like to play for England?" I mean, this is how silly it was.
I love that. Would you like to play?
I said, "I'd love to." I was in Sainsbury's doing the shopping. I said, "I'd love to," thinking he was going to pick me at 6 or 8, and he picked me at 7. and I'd never played there I never even played a senior game at 7, and I got picked there, and I thought it was a really stupid thing to do. He thought it was a very stupid thing to do, I played my first 12 games. So Backy, basically what he meant to say is I had a voodoo doll of Lawrence and I was just stabbing it at every opportunity.
Do you know
it wasn't until we came together, actually, for about 3 or 4 years in, where he'd established himself as England's out-and-out number 7. I got moved to 8 and Richard Hill got moved to 6. And that's when we actually started to get on with each other, because whether you like it or not, you don't like the bloke you're playing against in your position.
Look, I didn't have a voodoo dog. When you don't get
something similar,
I felt terrible pain in my leg, and you were nowhere near me.
When you don't get picked, right? And this is a message for everyone out there. It's because you're not good enough, right? So you've got to make yourself good enough. So that's what I did. I took myself away, and we were going to talk about the Pilkington Cup Final, which was
turning point for you.
A turning point, because that final gave me an opportunity. The first month, I got a 6-month ban, and it could have been worse. Yeah. I thought, oh my God, but I'd pushed the referee over after the final whistle.
Whoa, hold on, mate. You actually pushed him over. You in the report, you claim that you were walking off the pitch and bumped into him. You thought it was someone else and you bumped into him.
He walked into him.
I thought it was Andy Robinson and I bumped into him. So you're now changing your story.
No, what I'd said is... No. This is what I factually said. I said, when I walked off, he walked into my space. So...
He invaded my
space. And I went like this, but it was only because Richard Cockerell was on the floor, and if I had pushed him, he'd have stumbled back, but he fell over because Cockers, it's like a schoolboy
prank.
It's
the old party trick.
Right, so anyway, I wouldn't advise anyone pushes a referee over and has a 6-month ban, but for me, initially I thought, oh, that's it, I'm done. And then I had that month, and then I got my head together and said, right, I'm going to give it a last push. For the next 5 months, I invested myself. So I invested in a strength and conditioning coach, a nutritionist, a sports psychologist, rehab, prehab. I did everything I could. And after that, I went on I went to another 3 World Cups.
Yeah.
Including a 7th World Cup. And on 3 Lions tours, won 5 league titles and back-to-back European titles. I didn't look back, basically. From then on, I was in the mix.
Now, as successful as that time was with Tigers, it wasn't without its controversy. We know about that. 2002 European Cup Final. You talk about the one against Stade Francais. You met Munster again. I was actually on the sideline commentating or being involved in this game, and it was Leicester Tigers against Munster. Probably shouldn't have gone down to the last play of the game, but it did. As a scrum, I saw it straight away because I've probably seen it once or twice before, both in training and in a game. But you do what you've got to do to win, right? And the hand of back, not the hand of God, comes in at the scrum as Peter Stringer was putting the ball in and whips it away. Now,
I've got a question on this.
Go on, yeah, please.
Was it premeditated? So did you know at that moment you were always planning on that? I've wanted to ask you this for years because I remember watching this at home.
Okay, so it wasn't rehearsed. It was autonomous. And what happened is, this is the rugby field. The scrum's there just in front of the post. That touch judge is on the halfway line there.
Yeah.
Right, and he's missed so much in the game, he's not going to see anything I'm doing. Right, because Graham Rowntree, our loose head prop, was giving bother to their tight head, the referee goes round that side. Right.
You're thinking about this all
So what's happened to the touch judge on that side then?
On this side, he's on the halfway line.
Right, okay.
He's not stood here, he's there.
Right.
And he's missed so many things in that game. And the touch judge's that side, so as soon as he goes round there and Stringer's there, it's like your grandma baking a cake and putting it by the open window and letting it cool, and walks out the room and says, don't touch that. So you have a bit of it, don't you? And that's exactly what I did. So it wasn't premeditated. I was aware of options, and as soon as he went and that touch judge was there, then
you're also aware that the clock was running out, the time was limited.
They were 5 metres from our try.
And you do what you have to do to win the game. In the modern era now, the TMO would be straight in on that. You'd probably get banned for another 6 months.
If there was people asked me this, TMO, you'd have been.
You would have been.
You'd have been caught.
But you wouldn't have done it if you'd known.
No, I wouldn't have done it. And,
And
this is the other thing. Peter Stringer wouldn't have been on the pitch because, 10 minutes earlier, he kicked me straight in the face, bottom of the row, and he'd have been off. Right, and the 2 tries that were disallowed would have been allowed. We'd have been out of sight. I understand his frustration, but I actually became a coach a bit early because I helped him that day become a better player because he never let that happen to him again. And he went on to win 70-odd caps. Munster went on to win a couple of European titles herself. And if I was Irish, there'd be a statue outside that stadium, I mean.
What you said there, though, Lowell, about Backy, in terms of do whatever it takes to win, that for me as a player that grew up watching him and then playing with him that sort of sums him up in a nutshell. And I mean that with all the respect in the world, from the effort he's put in to train, to come back from disappointment. But in that moment, I was on the other side of the scrum. I knew I couldn't even see it, but I knew 100% what would have happened because he was just a genius at getting away with the little dark cards.
I would put my hand up and agree with that one wholeheartedly. We went on that Lions tour in '97. We won the second test, and everyone thinks we won it as a result of Jeremy Guscott's drop goal, which we did, because that was kind of the defining moment. People think we won it because Keith Wood, just before that drop goal, kicks the ball up the field, but we hadn't had the ball for the entire game. We'd been tackling most of the game. Gregor Townsend somehow decides maybe that we need to throw the ball wide. The wingers had never seen the ball all game, and he throws the ball wide. We get turned over. Then suddenly, the ball comes out on our side, and Keith Wood kicks out the field. And I thought to myself, how the hell did they knock it on? What happened? And when I watched it back on the tape, Neil Back has suddenly got himself in a position where, a Welsh miner would have been proud of how low you were. Literally. It was unbelievable, and it clearly wasn't legal. I'll give you that, but you made it legal because you got away with it, and we won the tour. So no one has to tell me what influence you have on games.
I don't need to add to that. It's never been spoken about, but that's exactly what did happen, right? Turning that ball over, literally the dark arts, the very dark arts, went to play. Yeah. But you don't have. It's about the team winning, and what better person than Jerry Guscott to drop that goal? Oh, yeah. Love him. And
talking about internationals, you've spoken a lot about your domestic success, but in your trophy cabinet as well sits one World Cup. And there's lots of stories around the World Cup, and it's hard to remember what's true and what's not these days. But what's
there's a theme
20
there,
years ago,
As long as it's a good story.
Oh, I know.
Who cares?
But what's your? If we go back to the day, what's your genuine recollections? What are your memories of the day itself?
The memory I go back to, and the thing I miss about rugby, is encapsulated in this brief little story. It's 2 minutes before kick-off. All the work's been done, all the prep. You're sitting down, near your peg. You're looking around the room, and you're looking round into everyone's eyes, and you know you're ready, and everything's been done. And it's getting up and then walking out into the stadium. Now, Jono used to give, Leicester or England, he used to give a bit of chat to the players before we went out into the stadium, like most captains do, that battle cry, right? So I got in a habit of going like that. Not because I thought Jono was going to hit me, but when he said those words, he used to spit, and I used to catch his spit and wipe it down my shirt. But this World Cup, he looked round and looked at the players and then didn't say a word. I thought that day I'd need an umbrella for the words he was going to say. Anyway, when we get back to Leicester, and we play the following Saturday, we sort of flew home having drinking far too much over on Tuesday morning. We went into training on Wednesday, and Dino had lost half the team. There were 7 players in that squad from Leicester. So they were struggling a bit, and he asked us, would we play? And we said, yeah, to a man, we're up for it. Dino said, those who are on the bench for the World Cup would start, and those that started were on the bench. So we supported him and said, yeah. So we had Thursday off, did a team run Friday, and went to the game, and we played Bath, and we got absolutely spanked because all 7 of us were in the match day squad, and we were still pissed from last week.
Yeah.
And that proved again, like that line.
Well, it's a bit silly of him
if
to
you drink,
and jet
he was
lag.
making, he was making a point. He was making a point. Before Lewis asks you any more, I want to bring you back to 1999, right? We got knocked out of the World Cup in a game against South Africa, which was played on the Sunday when we'd had to play Fiji on the Wednesday in a repage game to qualify for the quarterfinals. So you can imagine they've had an extra 4 days rest. We played a good Fiji side. Yeah. We played in that game. We got beaten fair and square by 5 Yanni De Beer drop goals, and we were devastated, weren't we? We went out that night in Paris. We hadn't been drinking genuinely for about 3 or 4 months. We hadn't really touched anything for 3 or 4 months. Well, maybe
you as well.
Maybe Jason and I had popped down the road for a couple, maybe a little bit. But generally, we had a pretty big alcohol ban.
No, right? The odd points, no drama.
And we literally got beaten. We were devastated. And the only thing you can really do is go out and drown your sorrows, which we did.
Standard bird, and we drop goals.
Yeah, that's it. And we ended up in a bar in the Champs-Élysées, and all I remember is myself, Leon Lloyd was there, Backy was there, John O, Jason Leonard. This England fan who's clearly got the St George's cross on his face comes at taps Neil. We're in a private little thing. Taps Neil back on the shoulder and says, "Can I have a word with you, mate?" And he said, "Yeah, of course you can." And he said, and he starts finger prodding him in the chest, didn't he? He says, "You didn't play with any fucking passion like yet today for England." And I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's going to end well. Of all the people that you chose, maybe Leon Lloyd could have been the next worst, but worst person to pick, because there's a picture of Neil back on his heels at the end of the final whistle of that World Cup. And, his head in his hands, and we were all devastated, but there was probably no one even more devastated than he was. Anyway, you gave him but we were pretty drunk at that point. You gave him the benefit of the doubt and just said, jog on, mate, go do yourself a favour. And I think I grabbed him and said, mate, if you've got any sense, you want to get away from him. And he persisted, and he did this. And all I remember Neil doing is, he said, Lawrence, hold my pint. Held his pint, he turned around and he knocked this bloke's spark out. And that was it. It was just the end of the conversation. And I thought, well, he gave you 3 chances and you still came forward. Do you remember that?
Don't know what you're on about.
That was you.
No memory whatsoever. Well, on that sort of violent note, the England team, the Leicester team of that 2000, early 2000 vintage was renowned for its physicality and its violence. Do you have any fond memories of training in that build up to 2003?
Yeah, I mean, with the club side, we sort of got into that because of Dean Richard when he took over director of rugby, and often Dino would smile, take his teeth out, and then tuck them in his socks and come in and join in the session, right? So you knew we were going to have it, but it got to a point, and then we.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But
you knew you were going to have it.
Yeah, can you just go back to that bit? So you say he used to take his teeth out?
Yeah, he had teeth on a denture.
Yeah.
And he used to put them out and tuck them in his sock, and then he'd join in.
When he was coaching.
I mean,
that itself.
When you've already lost your original rack, right?
Yeah,
you've paid quite a lot of money to have a new rack put in. They've got to come out, because if you lose them, you're in serious trouble, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Hang on.
All right, now I'm ready.
I'm in. Come on, boys.
So it sort of got to and we felt we needed to do that, get the physicality to a boiling point every week, and it worked well for the team. With England, it was slightly different because, you've got a squad of very good players. We still had the physicality there, but it didn't ever get...
Clive had his own teeth, did he?
Well, they could all handle it.
I'm assuming he
He
did.
couldn't take anything.
Clive would probably be in the scaffold looking down.
Okay,
There's
fine.
no way he'd be anywhere near, particularly the forwards. But, we sort of got that physicality differently. We had Phil Larder come in as defence coach. I think he was a huge part of that team's success, as were all the other coaches. It was a real collective effort. And Clive, he said that success was down to everyone. And that's not just the players, it's the whole group. And collectively, you're as important as each other and should be mutually respected. So we sort of took that through. I think at club level, you have to take it to where we did, because you've got to make up for the lack of skill or across the team. But at international level, everyone's good. I don't think you need to get there. Often it got there, but not consistently. That wasn't an aim of ours. We tried to make the sessions as efficient as possible, so we wouldn't be fatigued going into the battle at the weekend. So.
And you talked about the sort of foundations of the success for that World Cup, and combinations is a big part of that success. And obviously you and Lawrence were 2/3 of the Holy Trinity that was England's back row at the time. I actually fucking hate saying that out loud. The Holy Trinity. It was so hard to break into.
Feel the disdain as the words are coming out your mouth.
But that really was a unique triumvirate of individuals. But can you explain to us why it was so special and why it worked?
I think we had 3 hugely competitive players. And 2 of them could play across the back row, but I don't want you to blush now, but you, Wurzel and Martin Corrie and other players were a part of our success, because you to get that eliteness out of the group, you've got to have some pressure coming up, and you 3 in particular put pressure on us to do all that we could every day to be the best that we could be, so we'd perform, because we knew that one bad performance or one ill discipline, you'd be in, and then.
Well, in fact, I was dropped for you for 2 or 3 games, 2 games. You were dropped once, I think. Richard Hill never dropped, so I'm not sure. He must have had some photographs of Clive or something. I'm not quite sure.
Where
everyone says he was the best player, but she was, by the way.
He
never dropped.
But in a back row unit, this is. I agree with that. So the quality's there, but he took it off a lot, and someone else was brought it off. Yeah. So this has never been aired. I mean, it's no thing. I'm not going to. But you don't take your best player off. Yeah. No. So,
I think we're very proud of playing together, as we all are. I think it would be much harder in the modern game in terms of being able to stay with the durability that he had, that Richard had, that I had, to be able to play, I think, however many times, 50 times, but 46 of those were consecutive selections as well. So to be able to do that now in the modern era would be quite unique. Yeah. I'm not sure, and also I'm not sure any coach would allow any players to play that many games. No. They seem to swap the team around a lot, whereas we were born in an era where if you were considered to be the best in your position, you got picked in every game. And that England team rarely changed, actually, you talk about trying to break into the back row. Every other player in that team was trying to break into the team as well. It didn't change. The second row rarely changed. In fact, Josh Lucy was the only player who kind of forced his way in and came up on the rails just before the World Cup. But otherwise, that team didn't change.
That's similar, because Jeff Cook hardly changed his team, and he won 2 Grand Slams. Jack Rowell didn't play around too much. No. And then Clive was similar. If he got a set, and I think it's a real positive, because I felt that we played and didn't need to think about where. No.
It did become instinctive, didn't it?
And was a part of that because of the consistency, the amount of times that you then played together for England.
Yeah. But we would run out and warm up. I mean, Wilco had his own little thing where he'd go off about an hour earlier and he'd start kicking. But we, as a 3, would go out and we'd do 2 laps of the pitch together. And we'd normally go and have a little look at the opposition side of the pitch just to piss them off a little bit and just to remind them that we're in the game. It's a perfect way of, posturing and peacocking before a ball's been kicked. That's exactly what we did.
Did that just develop as well? Like, or did you, like, as you guys played more, you just started to add to your routine?
Yeah, I mean, you answer that, but we used to chat, didn't we, in that 20 minutes, half an hour that we had together about roles and responsibilities.
Yeah. So we went out, and I think it was to solidify how we were feeling and what we would bring that day. And as we were walking round, we were marking our territory, basically. And I've spoke to...
Cocking his leg.
It doesn't surprise me.
I've spoke to opposition back rows, and it sort of did affect them mentally. And if you can get any way you can affect them mentally before a game, they're thinking, oh, look, they're going round. They're consistent, they know what they're doing, and that sort of was in their minds. So, I mean, we were also looking for, if you scored a try, where to run and celebrate. But
can I just ask one quick question? So Scotty Scheffler's obviously come out in the news recently talking about how he feels after success, after that World Cup, and I'm interested just because I won't tell you how I felt, but of how I felt. How did you feel after it was all done? You were sat in the changing room.
I looked around the dressing room at the group that had been together most for that 6-year period, and thought this is the last time we're going to be together. Looked at all the joy in people's faces. I mean, what he did when the final whistle went was, yes, I jumped into Jono's arms at the time, and like we all celebrated. But within a minute, I'd found my wife. My sister-in-law had gone over, my 2 kids at the side of the stadium. There's 82,000 there, and I found them within a minute. And I just wanted to share the moment with them, because without them, I wouldn't be sitting here now. Like Olivia coming into my arms, she was age 4. Not many people know this. Jono said to Olivia, do you want to accept the trophy? And Olivia said, yeah, I'll do it, Jono. And I said, no, I think we better let Jono do this.
Is that why he looks so uncomfortable when he's picked? Because Jono's hands, he just, I mean,
he's not.
No, I've spoken to him about it.
Yeah, he didn't feel comfortable. A couple of the European titles we won, he didn't lift either of those trophies.
Wow.
When we won
nice to be in that position, Tops, when you win that many trophies.
Too many trophies. You lift this one.
You have a go. You have your turn this time.
To be honest with you, those 4 back-to-back, and then the last 2 were back-to-back Europe as well. He did probably get bored, but he was trailing around, which was a nice thing to do. But my feeling was, all the support I'd had from my family and the players, I was just looking around at fellow players and my family, and I know my wife, when she was 9 months pregnant, was on the local playing field, timing me doing interval runs in the pouring rain. I knew it was my last World Cup, and in terms of winning things, we'd sort of won everything, and that was the last piece of the jigsaw, really.
Stick to Rugby, brought to you by Defender.
There's a current Lions tour going on at the minute, and these guys trying to emulate what you did in winning a series. What did you make of the first test? Lions win 27-19.
I think circumstances are different at the moment, because Australia are not where... I talk about playing against the best teams and wanting to be challenged by the best opposition, and this, of the 3 nations the Lions take on, are in the poorest at the moment.
Yeah, by some distance, aren't they, really?
And this is the facts. So, you know what I mean? The expectation is we should win. There's no sort of real doubt or fear. If we turn up and we don't, lose people in terms of foul offences and things like that, we should win. I don't know where Australia go this week if a couple of players don't come back that give them a bit more force and front football. I think it's going to be difficult for them.
I mean, sport's based on rivalry, And the Lions is supposed to be the pinnacle of your career, which it is, but it's also the pinnacle of your career because you're playing against one of the hardest opponents you've ever played against in your life. And I think this is the first time that the Lions have gone down to the Southern Hemisphere as overwhelming favourites. Every game that we've watched in the build-up, apart from Argentina, which we'll just park to one side because there's maybe different reasons, has been so easy that, you go into this test series and it wasn't a question of will the Lions win.
Yeah.
It was a question of we're going to win. It just depends by how much. And I think to not have the jeopardy that exists. And a lot of people are coming back and watching it. I'd be fascinated to see what the viewing figures were like because I bet they were down because people are were already thinking it's a done deal.
We chatted about this earlier, didn't we? I'd be a massive advocate, and I didn't do much thinking into it because Katie called me up on it, but of having, France, Argentina, other options, and it not just being every 4 years you're at this place, but actually there's some sort of, I don't know whether you want to call it a lottery or ranking system that you use to put it in place. But then you're taking on genuinely one of the best teams.
Well, rugby goes in cycles, right? And Wales at the moment are in a cycle where they're not playing well and they're not producing the players that they were. Australia are in a cycle at the minute where they just seem to be, they're not just poor, they're ranked sixth, but they're playing like they're ranked 8th or 10th in the world at the minute. And I think would you advocate for a Lions? I mean, it'd be a huge break in tradition because the whole part of the reason with the Lions is you come together, you fly to the other side of the world, you play against the Southern Hemisphere team who are usually world champions or close to that, and it's very difficult. But you'd have to say that playing against France now, and I think something is being negotiated at the moment, watch this space, to play a tour in France against their club teams in the south, and then maybe a 3 or 4 test series against the French. That would be one for the ages, wouldn't it?
I think tradition, this has been the most one-sided, I think, tour. I mean, this isn't how it normally is.
No.
You know what I mean? So, because it's happened once in 12 years, can Australia get back to being a really competitive team? And then we won't see that because at the moment, South Africa and New Zealand aren't they?
By a long way, yeah.
So in 12 years, look, without question, going to France would be brilliant because for Lions supporters, it's so accessible. But the downside to that would be because it's supply and demand, only so many people get in the stadium. Would people hike the prices up or make it
inevitably they
difficult?
Would. I mean,
exactly.
You look at the price of a ticket in a World Cup semi-final or final, it's £500, and it would be exactly the same in a Lions series, probably.
Yeah, so I would say this is just a blip. If it happens, I'd be behind it because touring France would be amazing. Playing against France at the moment is like a tough ask, so that's what you want as a top.
Well, I think they're contracted to go with the Lions are contracted to go to New Zealand. That's in the contract already, and anything after that. So in 2029, New Zealand is going ahead, and then anything after that is up for discussion. So watch this space.
Do you see Australia coming back into this, or think it's going to be 3-0?
Well, literally, they've got class. So I think if they get the key players back that we all know are missing, then
Valentini, Skelton, Gleeson.
I'm hoping they can put on a better performance and get some front football because it's like last week. Because I don't think Andy Farrell is going to change. He's 23. Much if one player. A couple of players maybe, but I can't. If he puts the same 23 out against that same team, they're going to duff them by a lot more because they'll get rid of their errors that they made last week, and they'll finish those off and put them to bed. So,
prediction then? Prediction not just for the week, but for the tour. Do you think it's 3-0? Should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah. What struck me, I feel like I'm on the Lions tour now because of the coverage, and it's great, right? So you don't have to be there, you still feel a part of it. The one thing that's concerned me the most is the forwards daily meeting is now held over a cup of tea, right? I saw this on social I saw this.
In particular.
No.
Yeah, which bit upsets you the most? The tea?
What do you want, a punch up or something? Or do you want it over beer the night
over
before?
a cup of tea. I immediately phoned Jason Leonard and said,
outrage.
How
What are these?
the game has changed? Right, because back in the day they had daily meetings, the front rowers, but it was not over a cup of tea.
No.
Right. The thing is now, like, if we win the second one, then hopefully these guys will think, right, let's make it 3 and then let's lose our shit after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What I don't want them to do is, you know, what we did back in 97.
In South Africa, yeah.
Head to Durban Beach.
Everyone like went on it. Everyone went.
Well, suddenly we'd won 2-0.
Yeah.
There was no extra win bonus for the third test. And a lot of people suddenly picked up mysterious injuries. I actually played in the third test, as did you.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
All right, but a lot of people went MIA, didn't they? Missing in action because they went, job done. Especially the rugby league lads, they went, we want more money on the table, which I was all for, by the way. I just didn't want to say it.
I mean, back then we were
in the back room.
Their press and their supporters didn't have any respect for that Lions tour. They just thought we were there to make history and like make a few friends and not win. We're not going to win any games.
Just before we go to the community questions, because I just want to ask you, you were pushing for Jack Morgan to be included, primarily because he's almost in the mould of the player that you were when you played the game. You know, is that because you were sticking up for those under 6 foot and who played number 7, or was it?
No.
Or did you think he genuinely had a chance of, or deserved to be in the Test team ahead of Curry? And give us your verdicts as a number 7 on Curry's performance.
Right. Okay. So the reason I said that is because I'm a bit into the Lions, right? And
you feel there should be a Welshman in there?
Yeah, and there hasn't been one. Yeah. So
you think there should be at least one from each?
No, and he'd perform well, albeit against like poor opposition with no internationals in. That's the other point, right? So he'd played well as he could against that opposition, right? And you can only play who you play against. So I felt for the Lions, there should be a representative there.
And what about Tom Curry's performance?
Yeah, I mean Tom Curry, right? Like, if Tom Curry got picked, which he did, or Van der Fleer got picked, I could understand, because what we don't know is how they're training, how they feel. We don't know. In the training week, you know, I'm sure their training sessions have been harder than their games, right? So only Andy Farrell knows that. So he picked Tom Curry. When he picked him, I didn't think, oh my God, he's picked him. Yeah. I thought, great, because I feel whatever back row would have picked would have beat them, right? And Andy Farrell's selection would have been correct.
But he's picked a player who he knows is going to produce a big performance.
Like Bourne was the same,
because
not
he was
form,
he was under a little bit of pressure. But you're saying same team, 2-0, and then Jack Morgan gets the third test. That's basically what you said.
Well, yeah,
I hear you.
It would be nice. It would be nice, but rugby isn't nice. I'm not nice, right? So I want them. I
don't believe you.
You've been nice
You
today.
changed your opinion.
I want them to win 3-0 and like kill them off, and then you can go on.
Okay, we understand. You've made real friends in this pod. You're slightly ruining it now because you're making everyone feel like you're a psycho.
The real
back is
Once a lie, and you're back on that pitch, aren't you?
Right, before we let you go, we've got an either or themed quiz for you to finish. So one word, I'm going to give you 2 things. You've got to just pick one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, playing for Leicester or playing for England?
England.
Playing for England or playing for the Lions?
Lions.
Wine or beer?
Beer.
Nice. Sing or dance?
Dance.
Cook or do the dishes?
Normally do both.
Be a contestant on I'm a Celebrity or Strictly Come Dancing?
I'm a Celebrity.
Pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
City or countryside?
Countryside.
Pub or restaurant?
Restaurant.
Topsy or Lewis?
Why would you do that?
It's in here. Hey, I'm just going on the script.
Just read what it says.
I don't really know Topsy, so I would say Topsy.
Okay, nice. And lastly, Richard Hill or Lawrence Dallaglio? I was trying to warm you up, you see. I know.
I love both of them. Like they're my
It's like picking one.
family.
Who's your favourite child back here, isn't it, really? Who's your favourite child? Exactly.
Does he have to pick?
No. No, we'll let him.
I love them both equally.
He looks so sad. Oh, come on, look at him. And also...
One's here and one isn't, so it's fine.
Yeah,
we're still in love, Becky. We're still in love.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
My pleasure.